Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Quranic Connection TV, and in today's daily Quran challenge we are talking about the verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the dua that the Prophet of Allah Zakaria alayhi salam made, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered his dua. And the ins and outs of this for us is what? Like, Allah will give you whatever you want. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse,
هنالك دعا زكريا ربه قال رب هب لي من لدنك ذرية طيبة إنك سميع الدعاء.
So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هنالك دعا زكريا ربه, and there was Zakaria like calling out to his Lord, making dua to his Lord. And what did he say? He said, رَبِّ هَبَ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ ذُرِّيَّةً طَيِّبَةً إِنَّكَ سَمِيعُ الدُّعَاءِ. Like he says, oh Allah, oh my Lord, bless me, give me like a righteous child, give me righteous offspring, a righteous child. إِنَّكَ سَمِيعُ الدُّعَاءِ. Indeed, you are the one who hears all of those who call out, all of the dua, right? Now here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preserving a dua that the Prophet of Allah made. Now, why does Allah always talk to us about the prophets? Why does Allah show us examples from the various lives of the prophets and their offspring? Like, there's a very good reason for this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us this because they are what we know as the best, the cream of the crop, the best of humanity. Allah has gathered from all of the people that have ever lived and brought to us in the Quran like examples of the best of people that ever lived. And Allah shows us through their example like how we should behave. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to us about Isa alayhi salam, or Musa alayhi salam, or Muhammad sallallahu alayhi salam, or Nuh alayhi salam, or any of the prophets, any of them, Allah is teaching us like how to be, how to live our lives. And so in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved a dua. It's a dua that you and I should make. Like, no one should live their lives without making this dua, because if you live your life without making this dua, then you miss out on the goodness that Zakaria alayhi salam asked for. And what did he ask for? He said, Rabbi habli min ladunka dhurriyatan tayyibatan. He says, oh Allah, give me a righteous child. Give me a righteous child. He didn't just say, oh Allah, give me children, give me like wealth. No, he asks for a righteous child, because this verse, it comes after the verse talking about Maryam alayhi salam and Isa ibn Maryam, right? And here, like in this verse, he sees what he wants, right? And he wants, and so he asks Allah. Now there's three major benefits that you and I take from this verse. Number one is that this is a dua that we should make like throughout our lives. Like, don't have children except that you're making this dua. Even before you've had children, even after you've had children, make this dua, because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers your dua, like Allah answered the dua of Zakaria by giving him Yahya, who was another prophet of Allah, and this was from the righteous offspring. Like, the righteous offspring don't necessarily come with a lot of wealth. That's not what Allah, when Allah favors a person, Allah favors them with ilm wal hikmah, with knowledge and wisdom. These are the two things that Allah favors people with. Like wealth, like yes, we all get it because we require it to live, but wealth is not a benchmark. Wealth is not the one that shows you that Allah has favored you. Knowledge and wisdom is what shows whether or not Allah has favored you. So if you live in the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom and like propagating this, then whatever that knowledge be, Allah has favored you, because Allah has raised your rank by raising your knowledge. And this is why we have the intellect, because Allah has differentiated us from all else by giving us this intellect. But the intellect without knowledge is useless. So lesson number two from this story is that after he's been informed, Zakaria, he turns to his Lord and he says, قال أن يكون لي غلام وَقَدْ بَلَغَنِي الْكِبَرُ وَامْرَأَتِي عَاقِرٌ. He says, oh Allah, is this possible for me? Like, indeed, I've become old and my wife is barren, meaning that she can't have children anymore. You see, they both reached an age where they can't have children anymore. So, like, the lesson that we take here is that he was asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something that was impossible. Like what was impossible to the people, that all of a sudden Zakaria, being the Nabi of Allah, he's asking Allah. He knows that the risk of Allah is limitless, so he asks Allah about the impossible, and he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give it to him, and so he asks Allah. And this is one of the takes that the Mufassirin give us. They say that he's asking Allah because he has absolute certain belief. So with that certain belief, like when you ask Allah for anything and you know that Allah will give it to you, Allah can do anything, Allah is not limited by the limitations of creation. When you know this, then Allah will give you what you're asking for. Because here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the child that he wanted, even though he was of old age and his wife was barren and would not normally be able to have a child. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with a child, and not any child. Allah gave them the righteous child that they asked for. You see, asking for a righteous child makes the big difference between having a life of ease towards the back end of your life and a life of hardship. Because if you have a child that's rebellious and causing havoc in your lives, like when they grow up and they are turning against Allah, turning away from Allah, turning against the deen of Allah, then they will cause havoc for you in this world. So when we ask for a righteous child, and then we believe that Allah can give us anything that we want. Like, what do we learn from this? Even if the doctors tell you that it's not possible, that it is possible. If you believe in the limitless abilities of your Creator, then you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give you anything. So even if the doctors tell you something's not possible, if you ask Allah believing that Allah can give you, then Allah will give you. There's no doubt about this. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the previous verse we discussed, تَرْزُقُ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Like Allah will, oh Allah, you are the one who gives with no limitation. So if you believe that, Allah will give it to you. Now the third lesson that we take from this is that, look, if we take this to mean that Zakaria, he made a dua. He asked Allah when he was younger, and then Allah gave him the answer when he was older, when he thought that the child wouldn't come to him, then we know that he was persistent in his dua. Because in this verse, in the following verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when the malaika, they came to him, where was he? وَهُوَ فِي الْمِحْرَابِ يُصَلِّي. Like he was in the place of prayer. He was in the place of prayer, praying. So he was patient and persistent. He was patient and persistent. And even though he had asked earlier, like if you ask, you have to be patient. You have to be patient, and if you are patient like the patience of Zakaria, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you whatever you're asking for, even if it seems impossible. So the key takeaways here is that if you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you've got to be patient. You've got to be patient. You don't know when Allah is going to answer your dua. It could be like Zakaria. He asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to him, normally you would think that it's not possible. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still gave it to him. So he didn't lose hope just because he became old or his wife had become a barren. He did not lose hope. He believed and he knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not limited by the limitations of creation. And secondly, like once he made that dua and he persisted, because when the malaika came, they found him praying. They found him praying, and they found him connected to Allah, because that connection with Allah is what gives us life. That connection with Allah and persistence in praying and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though the dua has not been answered yet, like Allah will give you your solution. But you have to be patient, you have to keep asking, and you have to absolutely believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do anything. Because if you believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do anything, then you truly understand your Creator. You truly understand the Lord of the heavens and the earth, the one who created all of this. And inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to leave you that. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.